I'm multitasking. Why don't you do it?
Well, same.
Please pardon my interruption there. Okay, I had to mute for a second. So Skip, can you tell me where we're at, please?
You go ahead and do the introductions. I'm putting on the new SRES website.
Oh, well, that's a good thing to talk about today. So let's do this as well. I'll make you co-host as well, Skip, because we can talk about, that's a good thing to talk about as well. So, front corner. Since we changed venues, now we're kind of all sandwiching over here. Sorry, my apologies. All right. Good. Oh, yep, there it is. Ta-da! The new SRES website is live now. We're going to just quickly, we're going to say good morning to Silvana and to Brienne from the SEC. I'm so excited to bring this information to you, to all of our group, protecting your nest egg and preventing and reporting investment fraud. Investment fraud is directly connected to what we do when we're working with our senior homeowners and the families of senior homeowners. So good morning, Silvana and Brienne. I'm going to have you go ahead and get started.
Perfect. Thank you, Julie, and thank you, Skip. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm here in San Francisco, Silvana Quintanilla, joined by Brienne Dickman. I'm an enforcement attorney in our regional office here in San Francisco, and Brienne is a securities compliance examiner. And we have quite a bit of experience here in the government, as well as prior experience in the private sector as well. And today we're going to present a presentation that's called Protecting Your Nest Egg, Preventing and Reporting Investment Fraud. I think you can see the screen on the presentation on the screen. We're going to cover a few topics, and I think this will be relevant not only to you personally if you invest or are thinking of investing now or in the future, but also since you all have a lot of contact with seniors, we want to make sure that this is something in your radar so you can help protect our seniors. Before we get started, we have to just give our disclaimer that we provide before any presentation to audiences. We are not providing any legal advice or investment advice. We are talking about general principles of sound investing and preventing fraud. The presentation today expresses my and Brienne's views and does not necessarily reflect those of the commission, the commissioners, or other members of the staff. And I'm going to just get started with the main presentation, and then we'll, at the end, we'll have some Q&A. But here is just the agenda for today. I'll start with just a brief background about the Securities and Exchange Commission, tell you a little bit about what we do, where we are. Then I'll turn it over to my colleague, Brienne, who will talk about fraud, common scams, and red flags related to these scams and fraud that we see. And then we'll give you some tips about how to protect yourselves. And this also covers, if you have clients or others who may benefit from this information, that will be, something that you can share as well. And then we'll share resources that are available at the SEC kind of nationwide, and also our information here for our San Francisco regional office so that you or others can contact us if you have questions or if you have any complaints of potential scams or fraud that you see. And again, like as mentioned, we'll have a Q&A at the end. So if you have questions, please save them to the end and we'll do our best to answer them. So to get started just on what the SEC is, you may have heard of us, the Securities and Exchange Commission. We have a three-part mission. One is to protect investors, and that's kind of the bulk. A lot of what I do personally in enforcement is trying to, figure out if there have been violations of securities laws and help investors if they've been defrauded or, there are other types of securities violations. We also, another part of it is maintain fair, orderly, and efficient markets. And finally, the third part is facilitate capital formation. That's the three-part mission across the SEC. And then, as you'll see here, the SEC, as I mentioned, we cover the whole US. Our headquarters are in Washington, D.C., but we have regional offices as well. So Brienne and I are in the San Francisco regional office, which is covers Northern California, Alaska, Idaho, Montana, Oregon, and Washington state. So if generally, if there's anything happening in those regions in terms of, securities violations, often we're the ones, doing investigations or receiving complaints from complainants, from investors that are harmed. Other offices you can see there. I know that someone here was in New York. We have a New York regional office as well that covers New York and New Jersey, as well as others you can see on the screen. And for Southern California, we have the LA regional office, which covers Southern California, as well as other states like Arizona, Hawaii, Nevada, and also US Guam. Next, so we have, the SEC, there's a website we have, SEC.gov, which provides just general information about the SEC, but we also have another website, and we'll talk a little more about this at the end when we share resources, but there's this website that we want to make sure everyone's aware of. It's called investor.gov, and it is put on by the Securities and Exchange Commission, so it's a government website that has good resources. It's worth bookmarking. Even if you don't need it today, you may need it in the future. It's one that's good to share with anyone who's looking for information. It has free, unbiased tools and resources on saving and investing. And again, some of the information we provide in our presentation today can be found there through pamphlets or other information and like bulletins, etc. One quick thing, you see in the screen, there's like a link that says never stop learning. That's actually geared towards seniors more so that, they can always be informed about things that are a little more topical to them. But there are other resources there you can see as well, including the one that says resources for older investors, as well as just other financial tools and calculators and even quizzes to make it keep it interesting. So now I'm going to turn it to Brienne, who's going to talk about our main topic today, which is fraud and scams.
Great, thanks, Silvana. Hi, everyone. I'm Brienne Dickman. As I go through the presentation, there's going to be some scenarios, and I'm going to ask some questions. So feel free to just jot any ideas you have, or if you want to answer the questions into the chat, and we can have a little bit of interaction during the presentation. So let's make sure I can go forward. So let's start with a question. So how would you define fraud versus how would you define scams? Have you ever experienced a scam or known anyone close to you who has? Fraudsters and scam artists will work very hard. Oops, sorry, hold on one second. Give me a second. Great. Fraudsters and scam artists will work really hard to separate you from your hard-earned money. And there's a number of ways they can do that. So we'll talk about a few of the common ways and investment scams in this section. And just as Silvana just said, there is the investor.gov website, and that has a lot of information on these type of scams and other types of investment fraud. So definitely bookmark it like she suggested when you have time. So imposter scams. Fraudsters often impersonate organizations or individuals to lure victims into scams. They can impersonate government agencies like ourselves, or employees, or legitimate investment professionals like brokers and investment bankers and advisors. Impersonators may be part of an advanced fee scam. or may use personal information that they obtain to steal an individual's identity or misappropriate their financial assets. They could even be pretending to be Amazon delivery staff, or my parents recently were scammed and they were pretending to be employees of the DMV. So, just be on the lookout. Communications from these people can include phone calls, text messages, voicemails, and messages via social media, like getting into your DMs, emails, letters, and certificates. And they may falsely appear to be from, let's say, the SEC. So you want to be skeptical. If you're contacted by someone claiming to be from the SEC, for example, asking about your shareholdings, your account numbers, your PIN information, passwords, or digital addresses, or other information that may be used to access your financial accounts, it might be part of a scheme or scam to compromise your investment, your investment, financial, or other personal accounts. So fraudsters, they may set up an account name, profile, or handle design or a handle designed to mimic a particular individual or firm. They might even create a web page or a website that uses the firm's real logo and links to the firm's actual website, or references the name of an actual person who works for the firm. They also may direct investors to imposter website by posting comments in social media accounts of brokers, investment advisors, and other sources of market information. So, point being, verify that you're communicating with an investment professional and not an imposter. And you can do that by going onto the SEC.gov website. And we'll talk a bit about that later. Sorry, give me a second. All right. The SEC staff does not make unsolicited communications. If you receive a telephone call or email from somebody claiming to be from the SEC, call the SEC's toll-free investor assistance line, which is 800-732-0330. That's a good way to just confirm that the person works for the SEC. And you want to keep in mind that impersonators may copy or imitate the official SEC's seal without authorization. Impersonators may also send email messages that appear to come from the SEC's email accounts, but are just slightly off from the SEC.gov address. So here's a scenario I want everyone to think about. So Susan receives a voicemail on her cell phone during her weekly yoga class. The caller tells her that she owes money to the federal government, and if she doesn't pay, they'll suspend her Social Security retirement benefits. So Susan is worried because without her Social Security, she won't be able to cover all of her expenses. And the person who left the message left a number she should call so that she can pay off the debt that she owes. They urge her to do it quickly or risk benefits being terminated. So we're going to go back to this scenario later on in a bit. I'd like everyone to kind of think about what would you do if you were Susan, and what are the sort of red flags that kind of come to mind when you hear this. Next, we're going to talk about advanced fee fraud. Have you ever been told you've won a contest or like a lottery, but you just have to pay the taxes beforehand? So this is an example of an advanced fee fraud, right? Where the scam artist tries to convince you to make some sort of payment, which could be like taxes, a fee or commission, or some incidental expense in order to get your winnings. Of course, there's never any winnings once you pay. So you don't want to fall for any of these official looking emails or websites either. Relationship investment scams. So this is a very big topic with a lot of the work I do in exams. There's a lot of relationship investment scams, which is, for instance, getting a text out of the blue from someone who either just has some sort of greeting or seems to be confusing you for someone else. These seemingly innocent texts are often just a pretext to get you to communicate with the scammer, who will then slowly build trust with you and perhaps even a friendship, and ultimately will lead to some sort of investment pitch or scam of some sort. So the operators of this type of scam are often victims of human trafficking and are forced into this crime. So as a general rule of thumb, don't reply to these messages from people you don't know. So how does this play out? Generally, the scammer will take a long time to develop the relationship with the recipient of the text, and it might start out as friendly banter and avoid financial issues at first, but eventually the scammer will introduce some sort of investment opportunity and try to get your money. So once you realize that it's a scam, you're basically out of the money, but you may not be out of the woods entirely. Scammers often sell your contact information to other bad individuals who may approach you with other bogus offers to recover your funds or get involved in other scams. So don't try to be polite and correct the seemingly accidental contact. Just delete it and block the sender and report it. That's the best thing to do. All right. The next area we'd like to talk about are pump and dump. So one very common investment scheme is called a pump and dump. And it's the type of fraud that typically involves the cheapest of stocks, like penny stocks or micro cap stocks. And these companies typically have zero earnings, assets, or business operations. Often the promoters will hype or pump up the stock to attract investors. And then as investors buy the stock price goes up. That's when the promoters sell or dump their shares. So they benefit from it. So when the promoters dump their shares, the share price plummets and most investors are left with the worthless stock. So fraud targeting groups. There's a kind of investment fraud that may use any of the scams we've covered, but is particularly effective because it feeds on the basis of trust or affinity that exists among a group of people that have something in common. So when that happens, it's called affinity fraud. And the connection can be anything from a member of our church, a veteran of the same branch of the military service, or a person from the same ethnic, or racial background. So you want to check the background of any seller before you invest, even if they go to your place of worship or live in your neighborhood or share common background. In fact, the SEC has put out an ad that kind of speaks to the affinity fraud. So I'm going to try and play it for you now. Let's see. Silvana, are you able to play it?
Try share audio.
Can you? We can't hear it, can we? Okay. I'm going to move on. So, because I don't think you can hear it, right?
Nope.
No. Okay. So basically, it's just an ad that the SEC has put out that you'll sometimes hear on radio commercials that talks about these affinity frauds, just to make sure that you're, checking out the person, not just taking their word for it because they're a part of, your life in some other way. Let's see. So who falls victim to affinity fraud and these scams? Basically everyone and anyone. So these are some examples of recent groups targeted by scam artists. So you might also be familiar with Ponzi schemes, which at first glance look like a legitimate investment, but many of the scams promise unrealistically high or consistent returns, and the scammer may be using money from new investors to pay promised returns to the earlier investors, and may not be investing anything in an actual venture. So the sellers and the investments themselves are often unregistered, and the investment may be complex or so red flags. Red flags, what do we look for? In pyramid schemes. So another thought is pyramid schemes. Fraudsters frequently promise pyramid schemes through social media, internet advertising, company websites, and group presentations or conference calls, YouTube, and other means. Pyramid scheme promoters may go to great lengths to make the program look like a business, such as legitimate multi-level marketing programs. But the fraudsters use money paid by new recruits to pay off earlier stage investors, usually recruits as well. At some point, the schemes get way too big, and the promoter can't raise enough money from the new investors to pay off the earlier investors, and so people lose their money. The emphasis here is on recruiting. If a program primarily focuses on recruiting others to join the program for a fee, it's likely a pyramid scheme. So be skeptical. And if you receive more compensation for recruiting others than for product sales, that's a red flag. Okay. So how do these scammers basically get their claws into you? They prey on investor fears. The fear that you'll outlive your money, the very common fear of FOMO, fear of missing out on the next big thing, fear of appearing stupid. Sometimes we don't ask questions to avoid this. And finally, the fear of falling behind our peers. Some investors will make risky investments just to try to catch up to their peers. And some of the persuasion tactics of fraudsters that feed on your emotions are they may promise to give great unrealistic returns. They may claim to have fancy titles or specialized expertise. They may claim that many sophisticated folks have already invested with them, and these might even be folks that you know or people that you respect. They may use scarcity tactics or time pressure to make you think that you don't have time to research the investments, or if you don't act quickly enough, you'll miss the chance to invest. And of course, they may give you a free dinner or free lunch or seminar or something similar to entice you to go invest. I'll waive my fee this time for you. We often hear, I'll give you an incentive interest rate if you invest today, basically hoping that you'll feel obligated to make an investment with them. These are all red flags and tactics that you should be aware of. So this is a video that we're going to play for you. Hopefully it'll work.
And I'm going to turn off my audio. If that doesn't work, let me know, and then I can leave it on. Actually, let me leave it on because last time my audio was off, and maybe that's why it didn't work. Hold on. Let's see.
Hey, Tom McWardle here. I'm an investment pro, and I've made my clients millionaires. Do you want a new car, a new house, a life of luxury? Well, now you can have all those things thanks to my patented trading platform. With my How We Trade program, you can earn an extra $500 per week guaranteed. And more than 65% of our accounts earn $10,000 a week after 12 months into the program. Now, there are a lot of scammers out there posing as experts. Everything I'm about to tell you is 100% true. Click on the link in the description below and get started. After getting my MBA and working at top financial firms all around the world, I got an insider's look on how the markets really work. I took this insider knowledge and created the How We Trade program. Using this exclusive program, you can trade digital assets, international securities, and everyday stocks and bonds with a special algorithmic edge that can't be beat. Interested? I'm only giving access to the first 100 subscribers. Click on the link in the description below so you don't miss out. My program has changed people's lives. Let's check in with one of my newest members who's made over $100,000 in just a few short weeks. Hey, Rich, how's it going?
Awesome. I've made $1,934 in the last 10 minutes.
So what do you think about the How We Trade program?
At first, I thought this offer was too good to be true. I didn't believe it until I showed my wife how our account skyrocketed. We'll be millionaires by the end of the year.
So what are you waiting for? Remember, only 100 lucky subscribers will get this incredible opportunity to make some serious money. Click on the link in the description below and sign up now.
Wow, I'm gonna sign up.
Okay.
Great. Yeah, looks great, right? $10,000 a week. I mean, who wouldn't want that opportunity, right? Red flags. Did anyone see any red flags in that video? I sure did. So, red flags, what should we be looking out for? One is simply promising easy money, right? Or passive income or overnight riches. Investing is often boring and it takes a long time to build wealth, right? People promising easy cash and overnight success are usually lying to you. High guaranteed returns. Same with promises of really high guaranteed returns, right? Real investments have risks. Generally, the potential for greater returns comes with greater risk. So watch out when you're promised guaranteed returns. Another red flag, calling out scammers. So sometimes scammers try to earn your trust by making reference to other scammers to make you think that they are somehow different. Don't fall for that. Testimonials. So there's a lot of use of influencers and celebrities these days. And influencers and celebrities are often paid a lot of money to promote investments, whether they're good for you or not. So you really don't want to make investing decisions or other purchases based solely on these influencers. We call them influencers sometimes, endorsements. This one always sticks out to me, the pressure to act now. No legitimate investment requires you to make a rash decision. So whenever you're rushed or pressured to act quickly, that's usually a huge red flag. Exaggerated credentials, these are easy to fake, right? Especially in a social media post or some sort of text. So someone can claim to have a fancy degree or job, but they may be a scammer living in their parents' basement. All right. So hopefully everyone has been paying attention. We have a couple scenarios. I'm not sure if we have time to go through all. So Silvana, jump in if you think we need to move on.
I think you have a few minutes. Go ahead.
Oh,
Great.
you're good. You're good.
Fantastic. So let's go over scenario. Tom receives an email from an investment advisor inviting him to come to an investing seminar at the hotel near where he lives with his wife, Marcy. The investment advisor was offering free lunch. So Tom and Marcy headed to the event together because the invitation said they both needed to come. During the presentation, they learned about a new investment opportunity with guaranteed returns of 25% with a minimum investment of $25,000. They were asked if they wanted to sign up right away, but Marcy persuaded Tom to come and discuss it before agreeing to participate. So what are some of the things Tom and Marcy should consider? I would think that they would want to look up the investment advisor using that investor.gov resource. You can get to a section where you can look up investment advisors. And I think that Silvana will get to that later on. I think one of the things that they would want to consider is what is the company offering the investment? Like, what is it legitimate? Can you learn anything about this company? Red flags. Free lunch, right? That was a big one. Guaranteed returns and the pressure to act quickly. I think those are the three that really stuck out to me. All right. All right, this is an interesting one. Scenario. So Janine runs into her friend Sally at the grocery store. Sally tells Janine how proud she is of her grandson, Eric, who's starting his own investment firm. Sally mentions that she invested her money with the company and that Eric has promised her big returns. They're looking for additional clients, so Sally tells Janine that she could get her in touch with Eric if she's interested. Janine remembers that Sally's grandson was a bit of a troublemaker. And when he was younger, he was a bit of a troublemaker when he was younger. So she's excited for Sally that he's becoming successful. But she wants to do her own due diligence before deciding to work with Eric. So what are some of the things you do before deciding if you were Janine? Again, I would check out Eric to see if he is licensed or registered. I would, again, check investor.gov to see about any information on Eric. I would check Eric's firm. I would get the name of the firm and also do a check to see if there's any information on investor.gov about his firm, or even just look online at his a website to see if it's legitimate. And let's see. Silvana, shall we move on, or should I do one more scenario?
We can move on, and then so we have some time for questions as well. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
All right. I'm taking. All right. So now that we've covered a little bit about, the types of scams out there, the types of fraud that we see, as well as red flags to really keep in mind, let's talk about what you can do to protect yourself and information you can share with others about how they can protect themselves and their nest egg. First, a word of caution with investing apps. These days, there are a lot of apps and online platforms that help make trading and other ways of investing easier. Like they make it quite easy to do and access. But if you're using an investment app, please keep a few things in mind. Some apps may give inexperienced users access to complex or high-risk products or strategies, like options trading or trading with margin accounts, where you can lose more money than you actually invest. Also, keep in mind that some apps use entertaining user interfaces with notifications when stocks are down or up, and video confetti when transactions happen. And they may prompt you to trade with hot stock tips if you're not trading for a while. So they use algorithms to see, when you're not trading and try to get you to trade. These nudges can encourage some investors to overtrade or even treat their investments like online gambling accounts. So just stick with a strategy, think about what your investment goal is and stick with that strategy rather than letting these investment apps change that for you. And also keep in mind that some of these apps, they're fees, right? And so sometimes each trade will have a fee. And so keep in mind what the fees are as well for these type of apps. Okay. This was already mentioned a little bit when we're talking about, for instance, relationship scams. You have to keep an eye out for things like emails, text messages, phone calls that come in that may look legitimate but are not, and could be these scams, ishing scams like phishing, smishing, and phishing, as you can see there. As Brienne mentioned, this is very similar to some of the information she provided about scams. Fraudsters can try to trick you into providing sensitive personal or financial information through these means. The main difference between these phishing scams is the method the fraudster uses to try to steal your information or carry out other attacks. So as you can see there, and has been previously mentioned, we've seen people get emails, text messages, phone calls, and even through other things like WhatsApp and other types of kind of platforms, or even direct messaging on other types of social media platforms. So just keep that in mind. And, it's a red flag if you see these things. So keep that and don't provide information. Use caution with email, with text message, with phone calls, that if they appear like they're legitimate, like try to verify before providing any information. And some other red flags to keep in mind when you're seeing these type of emails or messages, phone calls that seem legitimate is just sometimes there's no, no greeting, or it's a genetic greeting, or sometimes, they'll use something like dear sir or ma'am, or they'll ask to speak to like the head of the house or something like that. Sometimes they claim to be a representative from a firm, a financial firm, an investment firm, or from even a government agency. And so they also try to, make it, generate some fear or excitement. So sometimes, like Brienne was mentioning, they can say something like, they're calling from the government and they need your information, something happened, or they can say, you may be able to, win something. So they're trying to get your attention and prey on your excitement or fears. So just keep in mind, if you see misspellings to bad grammar or anything like that, usually that's a big red flag that something may not be legitimate. Do not click on attachments or hyperlinks as well. Sometimes those not only can try to, get your personal data or other things, but they can, use it to have some, virus or other things. So just keep aware of those potential dangers and don't click on anything. Don't open any attachments. And always verify. So if you see some email from your investment advisor, for instance, that seems a little off, like just call, check with your, you have their number, you have their information, their actual information, just check with them before. We do a lot of things online these days, right? I feel like I use my phone for almost everything these days, from checking my, bank accounts to investment accounts and other things. So there are a lot of passwords that we use. One of the things that you should really try to do is have strong passwords. Make sure that it's secure. Try to change it regularly so that, there are data leaks, there are things that happen and you don't want your information to be compromised. So try to have strong passwords, keep them secure. Try to use different passwords for different accounts so that if one is, part of a data leak or, is somehow discovered, like the other accounts are safe. So try to make sure you use different accounts with passwords for different accounts, and try to use multi-factor also authentication if available, or biometric authentication if available. That can provide an extra layer of protection for these online accounts that we are all using these days. This is kind of the same theme we've been doing today. We've been going over today. Do your homework. So whenever you're thinking about investing, or if folks are thinking about investing, just make sure you advise them to do their homework. Try to make sure that they're not just taking advice without checking from like financial influencers, just from like YouTube videos, from like social media posts. Some companies pay online newsletters to tout to recommend their stocks, and that's not illegal, but the newsletter is supposed to disclose who paid them, how much they got paid, and the form of the payment. But sometimes that doesn't happen, right? And so you want to be, have a level of, kind of concern if you see someone touting something on a newsletter and there's really no information about, if there's any payment or where it's coming from. Like it may not be unbiased information, even if they claim to be providing unbiased information. So just do your own research. Again, investor.gov is a good place to start. So check there. But, just if they're claiming to be a real firm or anything like that, just check with a real firm, their website, try to find information, talk to them. And again, just keep in mind those red flags that Brienne talked about. A lot of times, and I think we've seen this in the relationship scam information that we saw earlier, people will reach out unsolicited to offer, an investment opportunity. And so, investment fraudsters will look for victims on all these types of social media platforms. Will use different methods like phone calls, emails, text. So they're usually trying to find people, right? Trying to look for victims. So if you receive just an unsolicited offer, like it's a big red flag, especially if there is this, like, you can't miss this offer, it's once in a lifetime, it's only limited. Maybe it's best to just move on and pass on such an opportunity, because it may be a scam, it may be fraud. Something else you should really keep in mind is just be careful how do you pay. A lot of times there's an offer to invest in something, and the scammers, the people offering you these, the fraudsters, ask you to pay with irreversible or untraceable methods like crypto, gift cards, wires that are sent overseas. And once you use those methods, like, the money is gone once it's gone. So if it turns out to be fraud, a scam, unfortunately, if you use some of these untraceable, irreversible payment methods, the money is gone. And so you want to be very careful and not use methods that are hard to trace and irreversible. And that includes other things like Venmo, like these other like money apps, right? And I think Venmo will include something that says, make sure you know who you're sending the money to, because once it's gone, it's gone. So make sure you know who you're sending the money to. And only use payment apps to pay vendors you know and that you trust. Another red flag that we've covered already, but worth saying again, celebrity endorsements happen a lot, and just be wary of them. They may appear unbiased, but they may be part of a paid promotion. So again, they may not be the best for you, the best product for you, the best investment for you. And the SEC has brought charges against a number of celebrities for doing that, for promoting without disclosing that they were getting paid for promoting certain investments. Another step you can take to protect yourself is to name a trusted contact to your brokerage account. So if your brokerage firm cannot reach you, a trusted contact may help your firm ensure that your current address and contact information are correct. A trusted contact may help your brokerage firm respond to possible financial exploitation or fraud in your account and protect your account's assets. If your brokerage firm suspects that you are experiencing a health issue, a trusted contact may help your broker confirm your current health status. A trusted contact may help your brokerage firm verify the identity of any legal guardian, executor, trustee, or holder of a power of attorney on your account. So it's a helpful way to protect yourself, and naming a trusted contact does not give that person any authority to act on your behalf, execute transactions, or to engage activities in your account. Okay, we have some knowledge checks, but I know we're getting close to time, but I think we can do these quick. We've talked a little bit about protecting yourself on, with your online account. So if you are creating a strong password, how many characters should it be? We don't have to go through this, but I'm sure you all guess that the longer an email a password, any type of password, the better it is. And usually it's better to have different characters so that it's not just letters. It can have numbers and other things to make it more secure. If someone makes you a limited time offer to invest, you should do it right away so you don't miss out. False. Please do not do not be pressured into making an investment without doing your research. Like Brienne mentioned, we see a lot of fraud happen that way when people feel pressured and they don't want to miss out and they send money and then it's gone. And unfortunately, a lot of times it's not recoverable. So it's okay to do your homework. Do your homework. It's your money. You earned it. Make sure you are investing wisely. Fraudsters sometimes pay celebrities and influencers to tout an investment on social media. That is true. Not only do companies that are legitimate pay celebrities or other influencers to tout their products or their investment, their company, whatever it may be. Fraudsters can use the same. They can also try to pay someone to tout their scam. With that, they may not, the celebrity, the influencer may not even know that they're just getting paid and they're putting out information, and they may not know that it's a scam. So don't trust something just because a celebrity or an influencer is, recommending that you do something. Again, simple steps and takeaways to avoid fraud. If it sounds too good to be true, usually it is. Just be careful. Don't be pressured. Do your research, and just be cautious. So now just quickly, SEC resources. Brienne covered this a little bit, but we have our website, investor.gov. It's a government website. There you have information that you can check on license registration of like firms, of investment advisors. You can check their employment history and disclosure. Sometimes you can check if they've had disciplinary history. So if they're not registered, that's a red flag, right? So make sure that you use this tool because it is available and it's free. It's there for anyone to use. Some of the things that you can see on this website will include, like I mentioned, disclosures. If there's been, kind of a customer complaint, a dispute there, you can see how long they've had, they've been in the business. So there's just some history on their registration. So there's some good information just to get to know who you're dealing with before you, give your money to those trusted folks. Another worthwhile tool is Edgar. It's part of the SEC. There you can see it's when, the SEC will have documents and information provided by companies. This tool, Edgar, allows you to research publicly traded companies, mutual funds, and variable annuities. It's the SEC's online database of corporate filings. And so again, another good way to check on companies to see if they're registered, to make sure they've filed documentation, so that you can, again, educate yourself before investing. So here's just, the website. And as it says there, there are filings available there since 2001. So plenty of good information there. SEC information. So, if you have any questions that we can't answer today, or if you have additional questions, there's lots of information on investor.gov, but also if you just want to submit a question or a complaint, if you have any suspected, fraud or anything like that, anything that you think may be a securities violation, you can go to help.sec.gov to submit investor complaints and questions. And suspected securities fraud can be submitted at www.sec.gov/TCR. There's information there too about how to use those. So there's just like some, I think, Q&As and some other guidance about these, how to use these tools as well. So just some good things to keep in mind. So, we're on the website. I think there's a Facebook page that still is there, SEC.gov on Facebook. You can see it there, as well as a handle on X. So you can follow us. And again, lastly, our information for our regional office. So we're in San Francisco. We have a regional office with our phone number there. If you have any questions, investors can also call that number if they have questions. And the email address, sanfrancisco@sec.gov, is how you can reach our office directly. So every office will have a contact as well. I think you may be able to find that at sec.gov. This is our contact. Feel free to reach out directly to us if it's something that we can help with, as well as the general SEC information that we provided. And I think that's it for the slideshow. So I'm going to stop sharing. And if we can stop recording, we can go to our Q&A. Thank you.